We have a thunderbolt. A flare is shot into the sky over Los Angeles. Three awesome words take form as if by magic, and a legend is born. Marvel TV Weekly, starting now!
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, that's right. It is Marvel TV Weekly, and you hear... I was saying before we started, it's sort of like playing Hail to the Chief when the president walks in. It's a big, monumentous occasion. Of course, we're going to kick off with the theme from the 90s X-Men. I'm Christian Blatt. You can find me on Twitter at ChristianDMZ. I host a podcast called The Blackcast, BLADTCAST, at Blackcast. And we're going to go down the line, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of our favorite Marvel characters. So I'll go first before I introduce Michael and Erica. I would say that from the X-Men, keeping the theme going, Kitty Pryde was the first character I really identified with because she was like 13 or something. So I was like, oh wow, she could just go along on all these crazy cool adventures and have an awesome pet dragon. I'm in. So that was probably my long-standing favorite was Kitty Pryde, even though she had some awful superhero names. And to my left, those of you watching on YouTube, is Michael Shirley, who can be found on Twitter, and it's just Michael and then an X and then Shirley, right?
That's it. Yeah.
And ilovemichaelshirley.com.
Yeah. I used to have a blog called IHateMichaelShirley.com, so this kind of like evens it out.
So you hated Michael Shirley for a while, but then you came back around. You're like, yeah, you know what? He's okay.
It was more because it was like an insider's look at like fashion and entertainment,
okay.
And it was just my way of like keeping the haters off, and it worked pretty well.
Right. So Michael, as we're going down the line, who would you say? You gave me a very interesting answer to this question when I emailed you. Who would you say is your favorite Marvel character?
I feel like I gave the answer that almost everyone gives, and it made me feel bad.
Dazzler?
Jean Grey.
Well, yeah, but you said your head says Dazzler, your heart says Jean Grey.
My head says Dazzler.
But no one ever says Dazzler, so I was very excited, and you settled on Jean Grey. Because, look, Jean Grey, it's the girl you marry. But
I guess
Dazzler,
if you want a life full of like sorrow.
Yeah, right, exactly. And Jean Grey, it's this amazing character who has... At the same time, she has the worst superhero nickname, Marvel Girl, the best superhero nickname, Phoenix, and then the most indifferent superhero nickname where she just goes by Jean Grey for 25 years.
I might disagree a little bit about Marvel Girl.
Marvel
being
Girl's
a
pretty
bad
bad.
name. I mean, maybe if you're going for like the fact that she is a grown woman, like don't call her a girl.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, that's the name of the franchise. I mean,
it's true. Well, that's
like,
a good point.
She's the face.
Yeah. I mean, as many people will argue, she is the core of the X-Men. Even when she's not there, her memory still is.
Oh no, just the cloud of gloom that hangs over Cyclops' head when she's dead for all the different times. And she's been dead many different times. Each time he takes it a little bit harder than the last time. Well, we can talk about that for the whole show, which is interesting because we don't even really have that. Well, we have a little bit of X-Men stuff to talk about. And then at the other end of the desk, Erica Green. Erica, Jaye Green. I have that correct. And Erica, your favorite Marvel superhero, I know the answer, but tell the audience.
I said Jean Grey too, but
course.
I said Phoenix because I think
the
Phoenix is
because the Phoenix can destroy whole planets.
Yes.
Like Jean Grey is like, oh, I can move that book over here. Like she's not even a telepath at first. She's like, I guess.
That's why I love Phoenix because that was like the badass part of it.
Yeah,
So
no. Yeah, if only we all had a little bit of Phoenix in us.
I don't know.
And I said Jessica Jones because I love Jessica.
Jessica Jones is great. Yeah. She's a character I am much more familiar with because of the TV show. You know, so
I'm not a huge Jessica Jones fan.
You're not the only one. I know some people that are not.
It's my least favorite in the Marvel TV.
You're hurting me.
The fact that the Iron Fist isn't your least favorite
Everyone
is good for me.
dislikes
No, I like him.
Iron
I like him.
I
like Iron Fist as a character. I always have, and we'll talk a little bit about how all the Netflix shows are going to have new seasons next year. But I guess before we actually dive into it, we can let people know that if you're watching us live on YouTube, you can join us in the chat, and we will read your comments, questions, insults. I'll read the insults. Don't insult them. If you don't insult anybody, just please insult me.
I can take it.
Well, I just feel like if I'm trying to be a jovial host, just insult me. And if you're watching after the fact, you can always leave a comment in the archived version also on YouTube. And we have a Twitter for the show, but when I set it up, the show had a different name. So for right now, it's at Marvel TVN, but I might change that N to a different letter. Maybe a W, but it might be taken, so we'll find out. But you can always tweet us there, and we gave you our individual Twitter. So there are so many ways that you can get in touch with us. If we want to talk about something that is kind of divisive in the, not the actual Marvel universe, the fictional Marvel universe, but the universe of fans of Marvel TV and movies, is the Inhumans. I don't know anything that has been so contentious than the Inhumans from the time. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you should see a photo of the cast momentarily. And from the time that the first set photos showed up, and especially when the trailer was there, everybody's like, nope, I don't like this. So I saw it. There were a series of IMAX screenings because for some reason they shot a TV show in IMAX so they could put it on IMAX screens. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was entertaining, and I definitely want to see where the story goes. There are some pretty cool characters, and you can see sort of the OG Jack Kirby version for those watching on YouTube. So we've got Black Bolt, who is the king of the Inhuman family.
Total badass.
Yeah, because
I love him.
If he makes a sound, things around him get destroyed. So it's like if he goes, well, then we would all in the studio be dead right now. Probably the studio.
He's been one of my favorites for a really
I
long
always
time.
thought that was such an impressive. It's just what a dark idea. It's like, yeah, you have this really strong voice, but if you use it, everybody's gonna die, and. I think that's the toughest thing about the TV show. I think some people were like, well, look at the guy who plays Black Bolt. I'm like, no, that's really hard to like not talk for the whole show, but in a way where you're conveying your feelings in a given situation. So Anson Mount is the name of that actor, and we would love to have him on the show. I haven't heard back, but we'd still love to have him on the show. And I'm not just saying that he was good in the show because we'd love to have him on the show. And we have Medusa, his wife, who is the one with the hair, the crazy hair. Crystal, who, like in the comic books, dated Johnny Storm at one point from the Fantastic Four. Karnak, Gorgon, and Maximus. But most important to all of that is the fact that they have Lockjaw, the teleporting dog. And I said that if at no time that I saw the show, if he didn't look awesome, I was probably not going to be able to watch it. And I will tell you right now, Lockjaw was awesome. They might have blown the whole effects budget on him teleporting, but he looked so good. And I was like, I kind of don't care about anything else. So we'll start a little bit with Michael. Your thoughts about the Inhumans, just sort of before there even was this series. Did you ever think like, oh, hey, they would make for a really good series?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I had the Black Bolt and Medusa figure. And I always was very much taken with their costumes and thought they were very cool. I didn't necessarily think that they would be one of the, I don't want to say first, but one of the beginning, we've just been doing these shows, for like the last 5 years. I wouldn't think that they would be in the like forerunner of teams to make into a TV show.
Yeah, and of course the backstory is that there was a movie on the development slate, and they had announced it, and then it quietly went away, and then they were like, oh, it works better as a TV show.
It seems like because of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's kind of why that happened to me. And also, it seemed like people were okay with magic and mysticism after like Thor. Doctor Strange hadn't come out then, but I'm not really sure why they picked it, but I'm glad they did. I know a lot of people are hating on it.
Really hating on it.
Yeah. So I love Black Bolt. I love Medusa, but a lot of people are talking about her hair is like a big thing for people.
Yeah, well, it depends on which trailer you've seen as to what you think about her hair, because I think the first photo you saw, the hair was like, but when you actually see her using it, I'm like, it's actually really cool.
It looked weird.
No, it definitely looks weird.
Wraps it around.
Yeah, exactly. It looks a little weird, but it's true. So, Erica, am I going to assume that you don't really know that much about the Inhumans going into this?
No.
Because most people don't. So, I think that you're just part of the majority.
I'm
on this.
listening and I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm a Marvel's virgin almost, so yeah.
You watched X-Men when you were a kid.
Yeah, I watched
Don't
Yeah.
cut yourself
these
short.
new shows though. Everything that you sent us, I was like, this
Right,
is
but
nothing that I
but
want.
between the time that we first met to just kind of get to know each
Yeah.
other and talk, and then we started sending the emails that we were going to do the show, you like binged all the Netflix shows.
Yes.
And I was like, that's pretty impressed. That's like staying up for a whole weekend to cram for a test.
I think it's
love
because
it,
you liked
too.
him so
Yeah.
much.
Well, yeah,
I love them.
even Iron Fist.
Didn't get to Iron
didn't-
Fist
oh,
yet.
you
so
haven't
I'm
Oh
in
my god!
Defenders.
Did you watch the Defenders?
Yes, I watched the Defenders, and Iron Fist is the way he talks. It just throws me off. But I'm
But
gonna get to him.
The Iron Fist standalone show has so much stuff that ties into the Defenders.
Okay.
It
So-
does.
Is there an order?
There is an order,
See,
yeah. And here's
somebody
the
should've
thing:
told me
the
that.
controversial thing to say is that really to watch the Defenders, you just need to watch Daredevil and Iron Fist. And I like Jessica Jones, I like Luke Cage, but they don't really do that much to build up the story.
I didn't know that.
But anyway,
That's true.
what we're actually talking about is the Inhumans. So you see the pictures that we're watching, and for
Yeah.
those watching on YouTube, we're getting a little bit of the trailer here
Yeah,
and there.
I've seen it. Yeah, the
And
trailer.
what do you think? Do you think it's like, okay, I want to check that out just to see, or are you a bit put off by the?
I was interested in seeing after just the trailer. They have a character in there from Game of Thrones, so I got a little bit excited. But he's playing kind of a similar character, so I was like, this would be interesting. But no, it really did look kind of good. Like they're trying to destroy the world.
And
as
did
everyone
I
is.
sell it to you with the teleporting dog? Because the teleporting dog is amazing.
I saw that in the trailer. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow. Actually, yes, the teleporting dog works for the show.
Yeah,
actually.
because I have a friend who wasn't excited about it. I'm like, well, did you know there's a teleporting dog? He's like, all right, I'll check it out. So,
I thought it was
wasn't
interesting.
that excited about Lockjaw. I'm hoping we're gonna get to see Quicksilver. He's one of my favorites, and he ends up
Quicksilver
with
is-
Crystal in the end.
yeah,
you
but
know?
it's so hard to figure out who has rights to Quicksilver. Because
Everyone.
He
We've got like 4 of them.
Right, because he
right
ends up
now.
in Avengers movies, he ends up in X-Men movies.
Yeah.
So he might as well get on the TV show.
Yeah.
Confusing.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean, she's got to be happy in the end, right?
Yeah, right,
Well,
exactly.
Well, depends on how much
Yeah.
you've read of
But
the
by the way,
storyline.
speaking of hair, one of the more interesting things they did with the Inhumans was Crystal has this really elaborate pattern in her hair.
Yeah.
And they
I
took
was
the time to
surprised-
do it, and I was just like, I don't think anybody would be upset if they didn't.
I was surprised that they put that stripe in her
Yeah,
hair.
and it has like the little circle in the back and the whole thing.
Like
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with it.
I don't. It's not like her power comes
She's from
her
another
hair.
planet. It's
Yeah.
just how they wear
Yeah,
their
hey,
hair
yeah.
out there.
Don't judge.
I don't know. I'm just like, I'm trying to learn. Like, so is there a point to this? Is there a point
Yeah.
to that? You know.
Do you
so
think
I'm
the
just trying to
flatness of Medusa's hair kind of makes it look more cheesy?
I think
I want
that.
to see like tendrils and stuff, like little arms, like snakes.
Well,
and
you.
stuff, and
that
that
would
would've
No,
been
it's not
nice.
like a huge spoiler. You will see it doing stuff like that.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
not going to tell you what it does, but you'll see it doing that stuff when you actually watch the episode. And by the way, the first episode airs on Friday.
I
so
know, I'm
that's-
gonna watch
That's
it.
why the show started this week, because I was like, well, we got to get in front of the Inhumans. And look, we're here. We can be very critical about the Inhumans, but it's important to let everybody know that support for this podcast comes from the astonishing new television saga, Marvel's Inhumans. On the dark side of the moon, there exists a civilization unlike anything you've ever seen before. People with extraordinary powers and abilities that make them more than human. They are inhuman. Meet Black Bolt, the king. The sound of his voice can destroy a city. I should have just read this first. Medusa, the queen, whose hair is a living weapon. And, thank you very much, copy, Lockjaw, the giant bulldog who teleports the royals from the planet to planet. And by the way, those are the 3 characters they list, so that shows you how important Lockjaw is. But now, in the course of the Inhumans TV series, treachery in the form of Black Bolt's evil brother, Maximus, threatens the royal family and their kingdom. The royals are forced to escape to their true home, Earth, where the real fight for their future will begin. Join in this epic family drama as 2 brothers battle to claim one throne in an action-packed 8-episode event. Marvel's Inhumans, the complete series, begins with a special 2-hour premiere Friday, September 29th at 7 Central on ABC. That's this Friday.
That's what I'm gonna be doing.
Interesting thing.
out.
I already saw it, but I am going to record it because I do want to watch it again at some point. Interesting thing that they're saying, and the posters kind of change. The complete series. Originally, this was the first chapter, and now they're like, well, this is the whole show. And I don't know if they're just like, we're just going to make 8 of these, and then we'll see where it
I
goes.
want to see what happens.
I think they want to see what happens, but I'm very excited for people to see it. And I do think some people are going to be won over. I know people who saw it and didn't enjoy it. But I think that when people actually see it, they'll be like, okay, this is pretty cool. I want to see where it goes. And I'll be most interested to see what you think, Erica, when you finally get to know the Inhumans. And I might cry if you say, oh, I like everything except for that stupid teleporting dog.
I thought the dog was pretty cool.
All right. Well, so when you actually see the show. So we've sort of been talking a lot about the X-Men in the first few minutes of the show. And there's a show that's coming up on October 2nd, which, by the way, is next week. So
It's also my birthday.
It's also Anthony in the Booth's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks for letting everyone know.
I believe that's a week from tonight,
Welcome, everyone.
October 2nd. So, Anthony, you'll be celebrating with us next Monday when we'll be talking about The Gifted, except we won't have seen it yet.
Maybe
so-
you'll be gifted with presents.
I think that's why it's called that.
I am gifted, yes.
Yes. So it's in the, they're always very clear with stuff like this. So it's in the X-Men universe.
Yeah.
All right. So don't look for Professor Xavier at some point. I mean, it like in the Legion series, there's a lot of reasons why you could have seen Professor Xavier, but you don't even see him there.
Yeah, you would think if you were going to see him, you would see him.
That's
in
where you
Legion.
would have seen him. So don't count on it. But you're going
Polaris
to
has
see,
a lot of interaction.
yeah, you're going to get
with
to see
Professor X.
some really cool characters from sort of the extended family of the X-Men. Let me explain what the show is, first of all. So The Gifted, it's two ordinary parents take their family on the run from the government when they discover their children have mutant abilities, and they join an underground community of mutants fighting to survive. So we have the parents, Stephen Moyer and Amy Acker play those, and then we have a couple of different characters, and as you mentioned, we do have Polaris, who was a member of the X-Men for a number of years, was Havoc's girlfriend, so I guess if Havoc and Polaris had gotten married, she would have been Cyclops' sister-in-law. Jean Grey's sister-in-law. See, it would have been a great extended family. But a character that has not been used so far in the Marvel movies, at least unless I'm forgetting.
No, she hasn't. I'm super excited about it. I'm wearing a shirt that's got Polaris on it. It's kind of hard to see.
Oh yeah, so that's like
many.
like when Polaris and
That's
Havoc were
bullshit.
on X Factor. It's like that. It's like the maybe early-ish
This
90s,
is
like 92.
This is from 1990.
Okay,
1993.
1993. So I was gonna say 92,
So,
93. So there you go.
yeah.
Yeah, and you got
Like
you
the
got
blue and the gold.
and you've got
teams.
Cable on there, so that's
Yeah,
representing
the whole
X Force.
Summers family.
Yeah,
pretty
right.
much.
It's true. So it's a family tree on your shirt.
I know.
Y'all are blowing my mind with this knowledge.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing, though. It's like it's knowledge that goes back. He's talking about it. It's the
know.
shirts from 1990.
Yeah,
I mean, the
I've
first.
had this since 1993. I got this when I was 8 years old.
Right. It must have fit you very well.
I was the chubby kid, and I can fit into all my clothes now. I know it's ridiculous.
I mean, I have a lot of shirts that I wore like in high school, college, and stuff. But that's because I bought them as like extra larges back then because
Yeah.
I was so cool. I would wear like really big clothes, and now I'm just fat. So, but anyway, so this show will have Polaris and Thunderbird, who is sort of a unappreciated member of the X-Men because he was on the new X-Men team that
Someone's gotta go. Like, look at Morph.
Yeah, well, poor Morph. Still too
He
soon.
got like created for the show to be killed.
to be killed, basically, yeah. And Thunderbird, John Proudstar, and of course his brother Warpath later in X-Force, basically the same character, because I think
Yeah,
they
they
felt
look-
bad that
their
the only Native
outfits
American
very similar.
superhero they'd ever had, they killed off after 3 issues.
Very
they're
American.
They're like, yeah, let's go ahead and try again. And I think Warpath never died, but I could be wrong.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and so we also have Eclipse, we have Blink, so we have like some of these great characters. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I don't know that much about this show because I kind of wanted to see the first episode. I was, as I was getting a little bit of information so we could talk about it, I was like, well, I could find out a lot more. I could watch some of the more extended trailers, or I could be pleasantly surprised when I watch it. I did want to know who was going to be on it, and it'll be interesting because I love the X-Men universe. I like when we get these extended stories that take place in it. Sure, I'd love it if we'd see Wolverine in an episode, but I know that's not. Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
I love the
Too
crossover.
soon.
the crossover
It's
the
way too
characters.
soon.
I know,
Way too
but
soon.
I mean, hey, in Legion we saw the wheels of Professor X's wheelchair. That was
I'm
as close as
glad.
we got. That was pretty exciting, and that's what we have to go with. So I'll start with you, Michael. Are you excited about this? Do you wish that there was a different X-Men series on than this? Like maybe just taking the '90s cartoon and putting it in prime time.
No. I am really excited about this. I'm a little more excited for Inhumans, but I am excited about this comparatively to the other shows that are coming out, but I worry that I'm not gonna like it.
Is there something about it that makes you feel like you're not going to like it?
The things that, well, I'm not. I know a lot of people are gonna like hate on me because a lot of Marvel fans are Buffy fans. I'm not a fan of Amy Acker.
Okay.
So that's already annoying me that she's gonna be the
she's
mom.
just in it.
Yeah, that she's gonna be the mom. And I wasn't a huge fan of the casting choice for Polaris. I don't see her looking like that to me. So that
But she doesn't have green hair, or does she?
It's like a tint.
Yeah.
It's like black hair with a green tint.
Because you need to have the green hair if you're Polaris.
I don't know. She looks. I don't know. I kind of imagine Polaris looking like the girl who's the lead of the show.
Yes.
And her maybe with like some mermaid color green hair, you know, like kind of bleached out a little bit. But I don't know. The characters also that are the supporting characters, like you were saying, aren't like really big characters, so that worries me that they're not too invested in the show, and that's why they're putting in more obscure heroes.
Yeah, I mean, and look, when it comes to stuff like this, you do have to factor in some of the boring legal, stuff, like who's associated with the movies. So, Fox has access to the Marvel library of characters, and then you do have a gray area with characters like Quicksilver, but you feel like their best characters and best stories, they're always going to save for the movies. And it's the same thing with the Marvel TV shows. Their best characters.
That's the case with the Netflix shows.
Well, the Netflix shows,
Daredevil is a character that they're really proud of.
I think if we hadn't had the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie,
you don't think we would have it?
I don't think we would have a Daredevil TV show. I think we would have gotten.
I know you talk a lot of shit about that Daredevil movie.
How do you know?
When
we met like one time and I talked about it.
I know, but I feel like it's something you talk about a lot.
I do talk a lot about it, actually. On my podcast, I've talked a lot about it.
I am not a Ben Affleck fan, but I didn't hate that movie.
I don't
like
hate
Jennifer
it.
Garner either.
Right. Well, I never saw Elektra, but I didn't.
Oh, that. All right. Yeah. That's a bad movie. That's a bad movie. I will say that. But I didn't hate that. But obviously, I love the new Daredevil way more.
Sure.
But I didn't hate it.
Okay, so that's good because maybe we'll all get together and watch it.
No one's gonna agree with me on that one.
I didn't hate it. I actually own the DVD of it because they came out with like an extended director's cut, and I'm like, well, maybe it'll be better. And in some cases, more footage actually makes a movie better. In that case, it did.
No.
Well, I thought it did. Did it make it great? No. So sorry, Erica. We went down the little Daredevil rabbit hole.
But I love the show.
We're sort of like spinning around down the drain. You enjoy the Daredevil.
I'm watching it right now. I'm almost finished with and I can't wait to get home to actually watch some more episodes of it. But yeah, I think it's phenomenal. The lead actor is great too.
Charlie Cox
Over
as
Ben
Daredevil.
Affleck, too.
Oh yeah, he's much better than Ben Affleck.
Batman works.
And by the way,
for him.
I was gonna say Ben's fine. Ben doesn't need us to like him.
He's good.
doing
He
fine.
has a new-
He's gonna have a Batman movie at some point, so it's fine. Justice League eventually. Justice League will be out later this year. But let's talk about The Gifted. So from what you know about that, does it sound like, okay, I liked the X-Men cartoon. Sure, I'll see a show set in that universe.
Yeah, no, one things I really love about the Marvel films is they go beyond just their abilities and the relationships. So I love how it focuses on how it's a father who was all against people with these abilities, but now he can't be so against these people and look at them like weirdly because now it's his own children. So I love how they tackle that kind of stuff, like really bring in like relationships with the human nature side of it. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing that one.
Those are some of the very weighty topics that they deal with, especially when it comes to mutants and
always the topic that when it comes to mutants. Oh, I hate them, but you're one. I changed my mind.
Well, and I won't give out a lot of reading recommendations, but the Marvel graphic novel from the early '80s called "God Loves, Man Kills" is one of the best written X-Men stories ever. And because it was this like glossy graphic novel, it's a little bit more violent. I think Wolverine uses the word bastards or something. So I was a kid. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. But it's also a great story. So we'll check that out. Then we don't have any new Marvel shows for a little while.
Yeah.
Because we don't know when The Punisher's coming out, which we'll talk about momentarily. But first we're going to talk about Runaways, which I'm excited that they're turning this into a show. And I think that they've got the right people behind the scenes to make The Runaways into a successful show. So they have Josh Schwartz, who created the OC, and Stephanie Savage, who I guess worked with Josh Schwartz, but she's known for Gossip Girl. And I was like, all right, I think that that's going to be the right voice to a show that's about 6 teenagers who find out that their parents are basically supervillains, and they're part of this collective known as the Pride. So just the concept alone, I think, is great. I think it's, you know, the stories itself that are actually told as the Runaways, also very good. But if you just take that, you know, Marvel could have sold that concept to someone. Like, you don't get any of the characters, but just take this idea. It's such a great idea. But I'm excited.
Disney Descendants?
I did not see that, though. But it's basically it's the same idea, right? And that's Disney, so I guess that they owned this too, right? Oh,
Children of supervillains.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I didn't even make that connection that it was basically.
I have
the
a
same
lot
thing.
of little.
No, that's
little
good. Well,
cousins.
look, there's a lot of reasons why you need to be here, but that's definitely going to be one of them. And I don't know. I think that we're showing a picture of the TV cast right now, and it's a Hulu original series. And I think the way that Hulu usually works is they don't drop like 10 episodes on you at once. You have to come back every week. Which is probably better because I'm under so much pressure. Like when
These kids don't look very tough.
I mean, they're not so tough is the thing. Their parents are tough, and then they run away. So the whole concept is they are not tough. Because if they were tough, maybe they would fight their parents and be like, all right, well, we're going to make the world a better place and kill our parents. So they're called the Runaways because they're scared. So no, they're not that tough. And look, in the comics, they don't look that tough in the comic book image either. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can actually see.
They get a little more savvy.
That's brave to run away. Your parents
they're
are
the same
evil
kid.
villains.
They look almost exactly the same.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah,
Anthony.
yeah.
Anthony's trying to make my point just because he wants us to wish him a happy birthday next week, but we won't. Anyway, I don't know. So, Michael, are you excited for this show?
I think it's a good time for it.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that they're going with this show. But I don't really have any expectations or anything from it. I'll watch it, but
So
not tied to that team a lot.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, you're not necessarily excited about the characters that are on the show, but the concept works, and it's the same thing. You could be pleasantly surprised by it. You know, sort of the way.
Yeah, I think I've only read like 2 or 3 Runaways comic books. It just has never been a big one for me, but I do like the concept of that.
Yeah, I think I like the concept of it more as I've gotten older than when it was a comic, and you're like, okay, this is kind of interesting. So, Erica, you hear about this concept. What do you think? Do you think that sounds engaging? You find out your parents are supervillains, and then you run away?
No, I like the concept because I feel like they're not some fraidy cats running away. I feel like, you know, they're trying to get away so they can come up with a plan. And that's actually very brave to run away from home and leave everything you know. Because you find out that your parents, I don't know, in the trailer it said that they witnessed their parents killing someone, which is crazy. What would you think if you saw your parents killing someone? That, to me, is like, that's braver than anything. So now then they're going to come back and, you know, face to face with their parents. I don't know a lot about this series, but I mean, for what it is, it looks interesting.
One of the things that when we were first talking, you know, when we all first met, is like I think it never hurts to not know that much about any of these shows, because when you do sit down and watch it, you're not going to have the same expectations. You know, you heard Michael and I kind of nitpicking about.
You get kind of mad if you know everything sometimes.
Yeah, and then it's like Polaris's hair should be more green. Well, that's not going to bother you.
No.
So you're going to be able to enjoy the show more than
we get through that.
Question. How different are the shows from the comic books? Do they take a lot out?
It depends on which shows you're talking about, but
a lot of the comic books have been written so many times. They're in like their 4th volume, so they've like started over. For, you know, like when you start a comic book in the 60s, you know, and.
Yeah, it's like how, you know, that we're on our 3rd Spider-Man in the movies now.
Yeah.
Each of the Spider-Men, definitely the franchises, represent a certain time period that was written, just depends on when. And they're fairly true to at least the spirit of them. I would say Daredevil is pretty close, especially for the season that's rumored to be the next season.
I feel like
Daredevil.
the movies aren't like really tied to stories in the comic books very much. I mean, Logan.
Yeah,
kind of, but
and you definitely get more things from the comics in the X-Men movies. I think that the Marvel Studios stuff You know, they're just like, oh yeah, Hawkeye has some wife that's just some lady that's not Mockingbird, but you don't care because we don't care. And I was like, wait, I do care because I wanted him to be married to Mockingbird, but that's just me. So it depends on the show. And I think that things like Runaways and Cloak and Dagger, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I think are going to be relatively close to the comics. But, well, especially Cloak and Dagger, they're going to have to make some, I think, serious changes to it for Freeform. But I think that as I'm just sort of scrolling back on the comics that have inspired the shows we've already talked about, I think they're pretty close to it. And another thing that's going to be on this fall that we don't know exactly when it's going to come back is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We just don't know when it's going to come back. It'll be on probably some point after Inhumans, and because it's not coming back, we're not going to really talk too much about it, but as we're sort of going chronologically through, I expect that it'll probably be back at the end of November after Inhumans is done. And I have it's not a love-hate relationship. It's like indifferent / kind of like relationship with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They have storylines that I think go really well. I really liked when Ghost Rider was on, but as soon as Ghost Rider was gone, I still have 15 episodes in my TiVo from last season.
I'm the opposite. Ghost Rider storyline killed me, and I stopped watching it.
Oh,
and then
okay.
I just started watching it again for this show, and I'm almost through the Melinda May LBD. But,
Right. Well, see, I like some of the
I
characters.
Ghost Rider. I don't like Ghost Rider.
I was never a huge fan, and obviously the only real Ghost Rider is Nicolas Cage. I think we can all agree with that.
Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, and please, tweet at us or mention in the YouTube chat if you disagree. But come on, Nicolas Cage is the
one and
only.
only.
The only. But I don't know. I'm excited for the show to come back because I do think that they do a good job with it. It's a very easy show for people to rag on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I love Agent Coulson. I just think he's great.
Yeah, but there's only so much. I mean, he stopped kind of revealing depth at this point to me.
Yeah,
it's
wow.
just like, it's Agent Coulson. But for me, I think that my biggest problem with it is that it doesn't have enough powered individuals. And I just love getting that, like when you're watching a show and you recognize someone's last name and you're like Wikipedia and they're like, oh, they're going to be like that, and I don't really get that much with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, we have Quake, but
Yeah, but that's not even that's not what that character was supposed to be. That was.
Do you think Quake could? And what do you think would happen in Quake and Black Widow, like Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow?
In a fight?
Supposedly Quake's could take her. She's the only one that could take Black Widow.
No, I don't think.
She has the highest shield clearance in S.H.I.E.L.D.
If she
in the continuity that is currently going.
Right. If she doesn't use her powers, absolutely not. But if she cheats and uses her powers, of course, then you can be Black Widow. I mean, Speedball could be.
Every time I look at her with that haircut and that outfit, she's it looks kind of like a wannabe Black Widow, and I'm just always
yeah. Well, that's definitely what they
I
want.
would like to see that.
Erica, what are your thoughts on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Have you ever watched it? Do you think you might now that you're doing the show, or?
After hearing y'all talk about it, I might continue. I started watching it, and coming off watching the Netflix shows, it was so bubblegummy to me.
Oh, it's so different, yeah.
That I was kind of thrown
yeah.
off
Yeah.
with the way they set up the
Well, you're going to be the tiebreaker as to whether or not Ghost Rider was awesome, because I thought so, and Michael doesn't.
See, now I'm gonna. So, what episode do I have to get to?
That's
get to
like
Ghost Rider?
the last season, which I think was season 3 or I don't know.
I think the last season
It
was
was
season 4.
So it's the first 8 episodes of season 4.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
I thought it was strange how they broke that down into like themed things.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. I think the seasons are too long.
Well,
of Agents of
because
S.H.I.E.L.D.
because it's a typical network show, it gets 22 episodes.
There's not
and I agree.
enough color.
Yeah.
It's very dull to watch, like visual, vibrantly. There's not a lot of color. Lots of times on an airplane. It's just I don't know. It's not as pretty and bubblegummy, and I mean maybe more so in the way they talk. Don't you feel like it's just pretty much like a Whedon type of thing?
Yes, it definitely has the Whedon-verse feel to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do like, obviously I like Melinda May. I like Fitz and Simmons.
Yeah.
I like the
them
characters,
all.
and I keep coming back to it because I like them. And then
It's kind of boring.
It can be boring, but I usually end up I'm going to watch the second part of the season all kind of in a row, so I'll probably have a better feeling than if I was going back week to week. Also, if I knew when it was coming back, I'd have a reason to watch it faster.
Right.
But Erica, you're not the only person that I know who has tried to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and been like, There are some great stories that very good stories that they've had and some good episodes.
So
But
you just speed it up a little bit.
yeah. Well, speaking of speeding it up, we should talk about date to be determined on the schedule, and they're really leaning into that, and that's The Punisher. I'm very excited about this because The Punisher is a character that's been around since the late 70s, but he got his own series in like the prime of me reading and collecting comic books. I believe his miniseries was in like 1985, and I was 9. So this guy who just goes around and like blows people away, I'm like, yep, that's my guy. That's Frank Castle, the Punisher. And the feeling that I get, and obviously we haven't seen the show yet, so I can't say that it's close to the comic books. It's at least close to the spirit of the Punisher, and there have been a few Punisher movies, going all the way back to one with Dolph Lundgren from 1987 that's really bad. There's one that's all right, but for the most part, they haven't been good.
I like the Thomas Jane one.
The Thomas Jane one was the best one.
The second one,
yeah,
I don't know.
The Thomas Jane one was the best one of the bunch that have been made, but I just seeing him in Daredevil. Did you see the Punisher in Daredevil, or have you not gotten to those episodes
I have
yet?
not gotten to those episodes
That
yet.
was, to me, some of the, just not the best, like, superhero television. That was just some of the best television I watched last year, I think that was.
Is it at the end of the season?
Whatever. It's in season 2 of Daredevil.
It's like around episode 4 he comes in.
Yeah, episode 4, and then thereafter, there's a couple episodes that he's in. There's one scene in particular that I was just like, this is just like great writing for any medium, and the fact that it's superhero probably means people won't pay much attention to it. But we have this series finally for The Punisher, and we have this great trailer that we don't really have time to show the whole thing, but we'll play it in the background while we talk about it. And pretty much like right away, I'm like, yep, that's his terrible backstory that, how could you possibly be sympathetic for somebody who goes around shooting everybody? It's like, well, if they have a terrible thing happen to them in their life like Frank Castle did, I guess so. So, yes, I'm very excited about this. I'm excited that Microchip will be part of it, as we'll see in the course of the trailer. And we'll see Karen Page from the Daredevil series, Deborah Ann Woll. I feel like, Michael, you are less excited about this show than I am. But I'm very excited about this show.
I think it's kind of goes back to a little bit like what we said, like they're redoing Daredevil, redoing Punisher. I don't know if it's just like Marvel gets really like butthurt and they don't want like to end anything on a note where it's not just like critically acclaimed across the board. Part of me just doesn't understand why they keep rebooting things like Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher, like. When I can understand the Daredevil thing. I like the movie, but I understand.
But you understand
that
most people
don't
did
like
not. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like this stuff isn't like Fantastic Four bad. Like, come on. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'd rather see them do something different.
Yeah.
Than go back to something that. Also, I mean, like with the Punisher show, the Punisher movie is more like a dark thing, it's not visually eye-catching like Avengers, which is so colorful and so much, just like...
Right, but he's much more well-suited for this Netflix universe they have.
Well, I think this show will fit right in.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect, to go alongside the other 4, or 5 if you count Defenders, but... I think I really like the actor that plays him. I think he does a great job at being him. But you know me, I'm more into the powered individuals.
Yeah, which it's funny because we were talking beforehand, and Erica wanted to know, well, does the Punisher have any powers? And it's his only power is how quickly
really angry,
rage,
and how quickly he can reload a gun. That's his power. But
I like that aspect of it. You don't always have to have like these magical powers to be able to.
He's just
to
like
make
a
difference.
threat.
Yeah. And his revenge is like motivating him. That's kind of like his powers.
Yeah. Does that? So I assume you've seen the trailer.
Yeah, I saw the trailer.
And does it look like something you would normally watch if you weren't doing this show, or
the bloodiness? I'm not into like the
there's
going to
be a lot
and stuff. Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
But I do like the dark aspect of it. And I'm kind of glad that it's a Netflix show because I like how they make it gritty. And I'm hoping it has like kind of the same type of dialogue, has really good dialogue in it, just like some of the other shows that are on Netflix. So hopefully, but yeah, I look forward
and
to
obnoxiously, what they've done is lean into the fact that we don't know when it's going to premiere. It's sometime in November, we think, but maybe. And so in the trailer, that's like all like classified, and they put like a little black box over it, so they know that people are getting worked up about it. And when people tweeted at the Punisher account on Twitter, it would write back and basically tell you to you'll know when you need to know, a lot of stuff like that. It was kind of funny that somebody was taking the time to do that, but
it was probably a bot.
Yeah, well, they didn't write back to me, so it wasn't very friendly bot. Yeah, so I felt burned by that bot. But I would say that's probably of all the things we're talking about, that's what I'm most excited for. Obviously, next year we're gonna get season 3 of Daredevil, season 2 Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist all have second seasons. They might not all be in 2018. Something might happen in 2019. But all of those have another season, which is great. I'm very excited for. And can't wait to see where those stories go. And we should talk about a couple other things, though, that are going to be happening in 2018. It'll be, I guess they're both for Freeform, oddly enough. The New Warriors is not something I'm super excited about. But they're doing it sort of as a sitcom, which I'm like, all right, that might work. And I'm going to start with Erica when I say this. What do you think about a show that has a character called Squirrel Girl? Do you think you would watch something with someone called Squirrel Girl?
It's cute. I think what they're gonna get are people knowing the girl's face. She's very familiar from the phone ads and stuff like that. So I think it's gonna be really cheeky and cute. It does look just very, very interesting in a way that's probably gonna be lots of energy and hyper and a lot of bad kind of lines. I don't know. I think it might have that type of dialogue that the kids shows have. So
Michael, do you feel like you and I are going to probably be hate watching this show?
No. I think
I'm glad you said that.
No, I think it'll be interesting. I don't think it's got much of a chance, though. I mean, look what happened with Powerless for DC Comics.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually didn't mind that show. I thought it was cute. And I liked all the little cameos we got from, like, lesser-known villains.
I was recently talking about that show on my personal podcast. I was like, oh, yeah, I want to check that out when it comes out. And my friend's like, oh, no, it already got canceled. I'm like, okay, I missed it.
Yeah, that actually had 12 episodes, and they pulled it 9 episodes in. The last 3 episodes were only shown in, like, Australia or New Zealand or something. But, I mean, being that it's a sitcom, I hope it's literally like a Roseanne, like, where it's like, where it's like it looks, like it's filmed on a set. I hope it's silly.
I hope it has a studio audience, but I don't think it does.
I would love if it had a studio audience. Squirrel Girl's like this. I mean, I don't understand why.
It's one of those things. I'm with you. I don't get the fascination.
For this generation, kind of like what Jubilee was for my generation.
Right.
Like, they really got on board with her. And so I think it'll be cool. I mean, I'm more interested to see who's going to play her. If it's going to be, Anna Kendrick, who I think would be good, but a little too old for this role.
I thought they already cast the
No, they haven't for sure casted
But there was a picture that I saw, but I guess, there's not the official announcement.
And, Shannon Purser from Stranger Things was another person who'd been saying that they wanted that role.
The girl from Parenthood originally, though. What's her?
I'm not sure.
I saw something that said they wanted her.
The last thing I read, this hadn't been officially cast.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
I don't know. Speedball has the most worst, the worst, most unfortunate looking costume in history. So I really hope they do that justice on screen. I hope he looks like
he has to look really stupid.
Yeah.
And the thing to keep in mind for people who read comics is that the New Warriors basically caused the comic book Civil War, because they were they were doing like a reality show, and there was a big explosion and people died, and then all of a sudden superheroes had to be registered. So yeah, the New Warriors are not something to really take seriously, and Speedball is literally one of my least favorite characters. Like Steve Ditko, who created Spider-Man, created Speedball as an older gentleman, like in the early 90s, I think, and he was definitely past his prime. It felt like a comic from the 60s.
He looked.
And by the way, the version we're showing right now on YouTube
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
awesome version of Speedball.
He looks kind of like an STD.
Yeah.
He has a crop top. Oh.
He looks like almost like the son of Thing.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of reminds me of Thing a little
Yeah,
bit.
like on the hands. That's right. But this is them trying to make him look really cool. I will check this show
I
out.
hope they have cheesy costumes.
Yeah,
Like
I
I want
think
them to have
they
like
have
superhero
to.
costumes,
Yeah.
like the Tick style.
Yes, see, and like the Tick can work really well, which is a show I'm really enjoying, but not part of the Marvel Universe. We only have a couple minutes, so I want to talk about our last big show that's coming. And these are characters I always liked. I don't know how much I'm going to love a show for Freeform, but we're talking about Cloak and Dagger. And these are great characters. Originally introduced in Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man in the early 80s, and they had their own series a number of different times, and they're basically two teenagers who end up with superpowers. They sort of do a little bit of retcon and decided that they were mutants, and that's how they're able to survive and experiment. I don't quite know how this works in a show for Freeform, that you get injected with synthetic heroin and then you end up superheroes afterwards. I feel like they're going to tinker with that a little bit.
I don't know. Pretty Little Liars goes pretty. You see some pretty crazy stuff.
Really?
In that
All right,
show.
well,
I wouldn't be surprised if. I mean, they talk about drugs in lots of the Freeform shows.
Freeform's supposed to be like an older.
Well, it's why it's not called ABC Family
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah,
because
they're
ABC
trying to
Family,
edge it
yeah.
up. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it would be a focus.
Yeah, I think that they'll show it in the pilot and then maybe not rerun that episode during the day or something.
I'm actually not looking forward to this.
I don't know how this show will work out. I always kind of like these characters because they're very different than most of the characters in the Marvel Universe.
I think it's a strange pick
To
on the
do
studio's behalf.
Yeah, well, I think when all of your A-list stuff is owned by other studios, you start to kind of go down to the New Warriors and the Cloak and Daggers, and
Aw.
that's where you start to try and make your money.
I want
But
to see X Teams.
well, sure, but that's saved for the movies because if they're on TV,
All right, well, what about Generation X? Something like that. I would love.
they did a
to
pilot
see-
for Generation X
They
in the
did,
90s.
and it was really bad.
Yeah, but I was excited because superheroes were on TV.
Yeah.
Which was usually not the case at
No.
that point. So I think that all that you do is you point at there was a bad pilot then. Although there was an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, it's
with,
like reboot this stuff that never got a fair chance.
Yeah.
But this, like you said, this is never. We've never seen.
we've never
this.
actually seen this done before. And I don't know. I mean, Cloak has such an interesting power where it's basically a cloak with like a dark, mysterious universe in there, and she's the light, and they work well together. Obviously, this being Freeform, they're going to play up the relationship between the two teenagers, but this doesn't sound like something you're excited for, Michael. I'm excited because I like the characters, but I'm very apprehensive because
I'll
of where.
watch
If this
it.
was a Netflix show, I'd be like, well, it's probably going to be really good. But because it's for Freeform, I'm like, well, what's the budget going to be like? I mean, what's it going to look like? They're going to shoot
I
the
don't
whole
think we're
thing.
gonna see a lot of superpower. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if we do, I don't think it's gonna be like very visually expensive or whatever.
Yeah. So the little bits that you've seen and heard from this, does this sound like it'd be something appealing to you, Erica, Cloak and Dagger?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons they probably brought it out right now, especially on Freeform, it does highlight an interracial relationship. I think that's something that's probably going to be really important right now, just to showcase two people from two different worlds and two different nationalities that can work together, and they happen to have powers. So I think in that way, it's going to be really cool. I don't know, from the trailer, I thought it was really cool looking. I wasn't
Well,
sure
that's
what their
good.
powers were.
Right. Well,
I was
it's
like,
not.
it's a
It's
cloak
not
and a
easily
dagger.
explained. Like we only had a couple minutes and we have to wrap up any minute. But I couldn't really even try to get into what his power is. It's just like hey, he's just got a big cloak and she's the dagger. But
Thank you for
and we
that.
don't actually have a premiere date for that, so we'll have a lot more time to talk about it when it gets closer. But I don't know. I think it can work, but I'm very apprehensive. And then I'll just sort of run through a couple other things, that there'll be another season of Legion next year. And then we have things that are in the rumor stage, that there might be a Moon Knight series. I guess Marvel finally has Blade, so they might want to do a series of that. And I
Another
did think
thing that's already been done like 3
Right.
times.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
But
know.
we'll have plenty of time to talk about all this stuff, and I guess we'll also hopefully have the premiere of Gifted to talk about next week on the show. I didn't really think about the timing, though, that we're doing the show, I think, before it's actually on. But we'll see if we can figure it out. But anyway, thanks to everybody who joined us for our first episode. We just kind of wanted to, we'll try and not go through so much so quickly in the future, but I wanted to give an overview of all the stuff that's coming up since this was our first show of Marvel TV. So thank you to Erica Green, at Erica Jaye Green,
Yes.
and to Michael Shirley, at Michael X Shirley. I love michaelshirley.com. I'm Christian Blatt, at Christian DMZ. And thank you to everyone who joined us tonight, and we will see you next Monday at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, right here on Marvel TV Weekly. Thanks, everyone.
You're tuning into the destination. From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.